Hello, welcome, Cabbage here. So as with the Light and Earth selection quest videos that I made for War of the Visions, let's look at the Fire selection quest reward unit Minwu briefly, and then we'll talk about the available MR and lower rarity fire units that you can use in her quests. But Minwu is a support character, a back to midfield character that will mainly support your mid to front field attackers and tanks. She has heals and buffs mostly, but has a little bit of attacking capability. Support units are kind of the best lower rarity units because their stats don't matter, just their abilities. Like Phoebe is a great example of a support unit that can be really useful even in high level PvP, and Minwu should be able to join her. She works best on a fire team because of the master ability, of course, but also because she can buff fire attack, and she's an interesting choice to go against light or dark opponents because she has the veils from the cleric subjob. And I'm going to assert something here which might not be surprising for folks that know my opinion of Ayaka. I think she's great at 99 and doesn't need to go to EX jobs. And so for that reason, Minwu is one of my most recommended selection quest units to go after, because you don't need to clear any of the missions, you can just beat the quests. That means lower difficulty, less time investment, less materials investment, less need to level or EX awaken random lower rarity units. Also, I don't think her EX upgrades are anything amazing, so let's look at her EX board, and I'll explain why she doesn't really need it. For one thing, she doesn't pick up any of the stats that could make a really big difference for her, like agility or defense or spirit. She gets some HP and luck and stuff, and then her stat node is TP up, which is nice, but far from necessary. Agility or defense or spirit would change my mind. And then we can look at the upgrades on her skills. This is her heal. It also gives a buff of attack, magic, and agility up. That functionality doesn't change. What it gets is one more panel of range and then some more verticality, but that's it. It is a single target heal. If it became AoE, that would be really interesting, but yeah. And then we look at her other skill. This is the one that can buff the fire attack for a teammate. But it stays totally the same, except it goes from raise fire attack to greatly raise fire attack. Again, I don't think that's worth going through the effort of leveling your guys and then attempting to get all the missions, which is always difficult. And then her job level 25 skills Ultima, which sounds cool. But again, she's not a damage dealer, it's a single target, she can only use it 2 times per battle, so yeah. And so, I would argue that her EX is not worth the trouble and investment, and because of that, I highly recommend going for her 99. And then looking at all of the other selection quest units, they are all to some degree damage dealers, where you want their attack and like critical stats as high as you can get them, so it will be harder to get them to a good usable state. But Minwu, she should be near max usability at level 99. Alright, next let's look at the available units for the quests. I find it hilarious when people complain like there's only 5 units, these quests are going to be impossible, and I'm like, come on, the developers aren't going to design some random quests. They will design the quests with those specific units in mind, and if you can learn to use those units well, you will beat the quests. That's good game design, where you challenge the player by getting them to figure out the tools that they already have at their disposal. It's like an escape the room game. Everything is in there for you to get out, you just have to figure it out. The developers of any good game will never design something that like less than 1% can beat. This isn't Mario Maker. But anyway, I use Minwu, Adorado, EX Seymour, Ririshu, and Yashutura. I used to be against using the reward unit for the first time clear, but now I'm like, screw it, the stages are hard enough as they are, I don't need to make them even harder, so I'm going to use her. But Adorado was great and very versatile. At different times he was attacking, healing, tanking, or supporting, with like a lot of sleep, but also with the green mage subjob he can use bar fire. There are a lot of fire enemies in there, so you can give yourself protection to them. And then Seymour, I can imagine him being in 100% of teams. He is the best damage source by far. But he gets Mech Slayer from Kongo. he can use a Steel Heart from the Thief subjob, and then he looks really cool. And then I thought of all of the possible EX jobs. His was the best, so I went for it, and now I'm very interested to try him in PvP. And then Ririshu, she might have been the MVP, but I say this about any main job tank. But with the AP and TP breaks, she can totally shut down bosses so that all they can do is just normal attacks. But with the Ranger subjob, she can hit from range, she can use reflex. And then last was Yashutora. I'm reluctant to say that she was really good because lots of players don't have her, but she was really good. She has Foul for one thing. Big AoE, good for clearing like multiple enemies for those missions. And then her too, she has Green Mage for non-elemental attacks, good against certain enemies, bar fire, and then with White Mage, healing and stuff. And then as for who I didn't use Marguerite, Naya, and Miche. Naya is interesting because, you know, she can heal your guys. I think she has a full life. But of the three, Miche absolutely looks like the best. I saw him pretty often in other Clear videos, and he was doing good work. His Thief subjob with the Steal Time was really helpful. I didn't expect that. He is super duper slow with very low agility, however, so that's something to work around. Okay, and finally, I always end these videos with answering the question, is the reward unit worth going for? But I think I've already answered it many times already. Yes, she is worth it, and since we don't have to take her to EX jobs to get good use out of her, she might be the most worth it if we compare like what we get out of what we put into the quests. Okay, that'll do it for this video. Next I'm going to work on water. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again. Take care.